What's up, guys? Welcome back. We're excited to kick off this year. We have a pretty special episode for you all. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. It's going to be a little different than our usual format. I know our usual format is a 15-minute or less health teaching. This one's going to be an extended episode, and the reason being is it's really important. And some of you all may have remember the 2015, 2016 timeframe when Instagram kind of started to come to the scene, but it was really about housing and it was about food. And, before you would have to go to a home show or you would have to watch HGTV, but Instagram made it possible for people to see all the beauty in homes, hundreds of thousands of images, videos, and the housing market changed. Same thing happened in the food and beverage industry where people started to say, well, the restaurant that I go to, my food doesn't look like that. I need to go there. And right now we believe together that we're in a modern day, just health expansion. And what's really happening is that kind of that veil that was lifted in 2015-16 when it comes to housing and food is starting to become lifted when it comes to the health industry. And people are really starting to see health as almost like a buffet or a smorgasbord of things to try, but there's confusion.
And everybody's an expert.
Yes.
Everybody's an expert. I know people that I went to college with who are, have 1,500 followers that are now an expert on health and are going to health and wellness expos and interviewing people about cold plunges and saunas and red light therapy and, with really no concept or training in what health really is. And just like Dr. Matt said, there's a lot of confusion and people are listening to a lot of different people and trying everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's you're going to find in 3 to 5 years that there's going to be a lot of failure. In fact, all this stuff in the past 3 to 5 years, I think really where it's kind of come to light, notice nobody's really getting any healthier. We're trying a whole bunch of different things and again, still missing the boat on really where health comes from and how it's built.
And where people are, I don't want to say this wrong, but where people are getting duped is the fact that these companies, while they're great companies and they provide benefit, and we're going to talk about some of those benefits today of some of these different items, but they're paying influencers who, again, like Dr. Mike said, have no bearing on what health really is or where it comes from. They're paying them to show off the product. And they're paying them to expose the general public via platforms like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook or wherever you find it to these things with, hey, take my discount, 15% off, 30% off. And people feel somewhere like if they can just get it right, if they can just get like the holy grail of biohacks, that if they just pick the right one, then, their health is going to radically improve and their life's going to change. And while those things, again, are great, they're not root cause because, again, we're going to talk about a real big concept today about stimulation versus regulation. But before we get there, we just want to kind of give you guys our thoughts on a lot of these health trends because, we use them, we do them, but we do them from a completely different viewpoint. So cold plunge, for example, I have a Renew cold plunge in my backyard. It's we'll just call it what I believe is like the Cadillac of cold plunges. You can set it to whatever temperature you want. It's ozonated, so you don't have to clean the water, and you're exposing yourself to something called Hametic stress. And what happens is, if you've ever done a cold plunge, is when you get in that icy cold water, if you've ever watched someone do their very first one, their brain freaks out. You just kind of see them like hyperventilate and everything in their brain's like, get out of here, you're in trouble. And what that is it's a sympathetic response. And the sympathetic nervous system immediately turns on. It's immediately activated. And then people go into this fight or flight state, but then their parasympathetics kick in gear and it overrides and you kind of get used to the water after 30 seconds to a minute of pure torture. And then all of a sudden you settle into it and people get out of these cold plunges and they have this huge dopamine surge and they feel like $1,000,000. They feel amazing. And I agree. Like that's how I feel. There was one day where I had a really rough day with my oldest and he just wasn't listening. he was probably 3.5 years old, kind of in that toddler phase where they just, you can't hold their attention span and they just can't hear you. And I was so frustrated, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take 5 minutes. And I told Kara, I'm like, I'm going to go outside and jump in the cold water. No joke. When I did that, after I came back inside, I was completely relaxed. There was a huge dopamine surge. I felt great, and I was able to handle parenting more effectively. So that's kind of my experience with cold plunges.
Mm-hmm. And I don't have the Cadillac of cold plunges, but I have a chiller that I put in my bathtub. And again, all this stuff is great if you have a foundation of health that you're building off of. The problem is that when you go to this stuff first, and you don't have that foundation, you're really not doing anything for yourself. You're not benefiting your system whatsoever because you don't have that neurological foundation as a cornerstone to build off of. You have to put the work in getting the nerve system to work better before you could actually, even when it comes to diet and nutrition, like most people always think that that's the first place you need to go, and it's not the first place you need to go.
But you're like a whiz, and you have been for 25 years. Like, tell them a little bit about, like, just so they can get an idea, because a lot of you guys that are listening, you're practice members, but some of you guys are joining us from different places, and you don't really know him as a person. You don't really know his habits. Give them an idea of like what your life looks like.
And I did not have habits when I was younger. In fact, I will tell you, it was my college years were not good years. Like they were not healthy lifestyle years. But I do have solid habits. It starts with how often I get adjusted, and it's typically 2 to 3 times a week consistently. And I've been doing that for years, sometimes more. And that is my choice to build my foundation on. Everything else is kind of gravy when it comes after that. So my morning routine is solid and on point every single day, 7 days a week, 365. I do the same things every single day. I journal, I red light, I breathe, I meditate, I pray, I use the Pause app for 10 minutes, and that's part of my prayer routine. And that's every morning. Like that's what I do every morning. And I do a version of that before I go to bed. It's a smaller version of that, but I do that. I bookend my days with those 2 habits. And there's no compromise to that. Do I have to wake up early? Yep. I have to be in this office on Monday and Wednesday at 7:00. And those days I'm up at 5 a.m. doing that stuff. Do I like doing it? No. But I've trained my brain to, and one of my daily affirmations is that I do things that are hard even when it hurts or even when it doesn't feel good. So, these are things where you have to build the foundation on before you venture into buy some of these things that we're talking about. Like a cold plunge is not going to do you any good if you do not have a way to ground your mindset and anchor your mindset to every day. Like it's just not going to do you any good. In fact, I tell practice members this all the time, and we talk about this all the time too, is that your mindset is probably either your biggest enemy or your biggest asset. So, and because in our lifestyle, especially with phones, now you could really be deterred by anything you read or see that can turn you into a negative person or put you into a fight or flight situation, make you very angry, very upset. You have to have solid framework and grounding mentally to be able to prepare yourself to adapt to that stuff.
And just a piece on that, like you hear people all the time, like, and you can see it in people that don't have that foundation. They're kind of whimsical, and they'll say, well, I got triggered. It's like, well, no, you didn't get triggered because 2 different people walk by the same trigger. One's triggered, one's not. Mm-hmm. If you get triggered, it's because you decided to be triggered.
Or overwhelmed. Yeah. I hear that a lot. I don't ever get overwhelmed. Ever. Did I used to? You bet. Mm-hmm. But when you're anchored, there is no overwhelm. Even when things get hard and tough, there's no overwhelm. And again, it's just a completely different lens and a completely different paradigm of what you're seeing when you experience, like I experience the same thing that everybody else in this country experiences. Mm-hmm. with shootings and all these different things. And I see some people take that so emotionally. And I'm not saying I'm not sympathetic and empathetic to these things that happen in this world. I totally am. But I do not let it affect my physiology. Because now, whoever, for instance, a shooting, whoever does that shooting has now not only affected the people and the families, but they also now have affected me. So they're winning, right? So I am anchored consistently, and I realize that is the reason why I'm not able to go into a fight or flight situation when something happens, is because of my habits. And when I don't do those habits, which is rare, but when I do, I see all my old patterns come back. It's just like chiropractic. Like when you miss visits, all of your old neurology comes back. Like golf, I'm a golfer. When I don't practice, all my old bad habits come back. When I don't anchor my mindset, all my bad habits come back. There's no difference. And it has to be repetitive. So you're constantly building new neural habits and new neurology and new neuroplasticity every time you do something, whether it's good or bad. And that's the thing. Like all of these things that we're talking about, cold plunge, red light, gut mapping, all these biohacks that are now very, very popular, they don't mean a thing if they're not consistent and you don't have foundational habits to build off of.
And so what he's talking about, and we can go there, but it's stimulation versus regulation. Like you can stimulate your nervous system, meaning that I also do red light in the mornings. I use the Dwell app for the Bible so I can listen to it while I read it. I keep a red light feature on my phone so I'm not exposing myself to blue light. So we are dialed in these things. We do use these things. And that red light, if you don't know, it penetrates about 9 millimeters into the skin. It's good for digestion. It's good for skin health. It's good for a variety of things. And I try to do it most mornings because it becomes habitual, but it's still stimulation. We're still taking something from the outside of the body, putting it inside of the body, and we're trying to stimulate the body into a response. But you can't do enough cold plunges to prevent yourself from getting heart disease or cancer. You can't do enough red light therapy or sauning. Will it help? 100%, but it's outside in it. It's stimulation versus regulation. And regulation starts in your central nervous system, your autonomic nervous system. It's automatic. All these things are happening in your body at any given period of time. All of these minute chemical interactions, your body is doing it without your conscious thought. So, think about swallowing food. Like once you chew it and swallow it, it's done. And it's going to continue to be absorbed. Nutrients are going to be assimilated. Like good things are going to happen, but it's all automatic, controlled by your brain and your entire central nervous system. So our point today is that as health is becoming this smorgasbord and people are doing all these different things and they're spending an exuberant amount of money and they're seeing all these benefits from influencers and they're like, oh man, well, he's jacked and it really seems to help him, but I don't really feel a difference. Our question to you guys is, are you just stimulating or is your nervous system regulated? And there's nothing that can supplement a specific neurological based chiropractic adjustment to influence the nervous system. And we're going to talk in a minute. We're going to come to a common question that we get a lot. But before we do that, I just want you guys to hear that, let that set in, because if you don't have that foundation, just like those habits in the morning, you're never, ever, ever going to see the benefits of any biohack, nutritional, peptide stack, whatever it is. And it's going to get frustrating. And we see that a lot. And a lot of the people that come through the doors, they're like, well, my wife is using peptides and she's ripped as can be. And I'm using them as well. I'm even doing TRT and I just don't feel a whole lot different.
And it really, the paradigm shift that has to take place here is what your definition of health really has to be. Because if your definition of health is just looking good and feeling better temporarily, you're on the wrong path. Mm-hmm. You're just completely on the wrong path. It's the reason why we aren't open 7 days a week. If people truly understood what it is that we're actually doing here, we wouldn't have enough hours in the day to be able to serve the population around Carmel. We wouldn't. Because there would be lines out the door. There'd be every family that we ever met would be here, and there would never be anybody stopping care. And the only reason why people do those things and why we don't have those things is because one of two things. Either they're hearing something from the outside or on Instagram that changes their understanding or beliefs about what health is, or they have a hard time comprehending what it is we're trying to explain to them. And the fact of the matter is that your only asset that matters isn't your car, your house, your clothes. Mm-hmm. It isn't even your retirement account. It is your health, because once that goes away, people find ways to do things to try to reclaim it. And being in practice for a combined almost 42 years, 45 years between the two of us, somewhere around there, mm-hmm. We've seen people who have not value their nervous system for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't hear us, maybe they didn't understand it, maybe they didn't want to learn, maybe they didn't want to hear it, lose their health, and then miraculously find the time, the finances, the resources to reclaim it when they lose it. The fact of the matter is that if you can truly hear what we're saying and you understand what you have to do to keep yourself in balance, which is what health is, you never lose it. And if you never lose it, you don't have to find the time, the energy, the resources, and the money to try to reclaim it.
Yep. But here's the problem. Everybody is trained the opposite way. Guys,
well, it's generational. I mean, it's
100%.
Our health paradigm has been generationally passed down for us to believe that it's in your blood work, it's how you feel, it's how you look.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a generational gap that exists. But look, we're not going to give up trying to explain and teach you guys how and where it all comes from, because that's our calling. That's what we're here to do.
So I want them to hear this, because like I did a little research, and I really want people to really get their arms around this, because if we look at our nation, like everyone is unhealthy for the most part. So many rates of cancer and heart disease continue to go up. And I was curious. I was like, okay, well, where is the profession of neurologically focused chiropractic versus other paradigms? And medical doctors in the United States, there are over 1 million medical doctors in the United States. 1 million. There are 600,000 physical therapists. 600,000. Chiropractic, there are 70,000 chiropractors. Now, out of those 70,000, only 60,000 are licensed and practicing. And I'm gonna probably say this generously, and let's just say half. Let's say 30,000 chiropractors are actually practicing chiropractic by hand, right? Giving a neurological based adjustment versus doing something in the PT realm like cold laser, stem cells, muscle work. And of that 30,000, I think 90-10 rule applies. And I'd probably say that 10% of that 30,000 are practicing like this, where we're focused on caring for the nervous system. We're focused on balancing your sympathetic and parasympathetic tone. We're focused on a higher level of functionality of the nervous system so that your body can heal itself. And if you're a practice member with us, you know that.
I think it's less.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
I can't tell you how many times that we've referred people to other doctors in other states. And I can think of 3 people consistently that I've referred, over 5 to 6 different chiropractors that claim to be neurologically based, and all 6 of them do the same thing every single time. I mean, there's no education at all. It's just not. I don't think there's not a lot out there. I mean, there's just not a lot out there, which is why we have people who travel from far distances to be able to get the care. I wish there were more. But chiropractic, unfortunately, the profession as a whole has molded into other natural therapies because we have a self-esteem complex issue, like chiropractors do. We have this big self-esteem issue, and that's been going on for years. I mean, I think honestly, ever since chiropractic has come to light. So
it's also a money issue. You know, the fact that some of you guys may know this, but in the 1920s and 30s, they accredited medical schools, and about half the medical schools, I'm not talking just medical, I'm talking homeopathy, I'm talking, naturopathy, I'm talking chiropractic, I'm talking medical. Mm-hmm. They shut down about half of the medical schools as a whole in this country in the early 1930s because they didn't practice a new wave of medicine, pharmaceuticals, and where people went from a business standpoint was pushing all in on pharmaceutical drugs. And now we are so quick to line up for health and safety and follow the science. And we're not looking at how God built our bodies. So again, in the future, people are going to choose science over Jesus, which is a really, really sad place to be. But for us and where we sit, and I know I can probably speak for you in this realm, is like, we want people in this new year to start to understand that, number one, your body heals itself. There is no other way. There is no biohack, cold plunge, red light, sauna, peptide. There's nothing that's going to heal your body. Just like drugs don't heal your body because they're just managing symptoms. They are stimulating. They're not regulating.
You got to stop and say that slowly, because I think I think some people are, oh yeah, well, it can heal my this and my that, but it can't heal this or that. No, it's the only system that heals. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to realize that this is the system that heals. And it does not come from anything other than this system. No homeopathy, no naturopathy, no supplement, no drug, no pill, no lotion, no cold plunge, no laser. That does not heal you. Yep. No nutrition heals you. Nutrition does not heal you. Everything that you do, whether it's a benefit to your system or a detriment to your system, either helps bring your body away or towards balance. But what controls that balance? It's what we have inside of us. It's what God gave us, right? It's already built in. That's the one thing that I don't think that we still understand. So in 2026, which we are now,
we're still talking.
In 2026, we're still talking about the fact that, how do people not know where this comes from? How do we not know that the body is innately designed to either be in balance or actually the body always strives for balance and homeostasis.
What's been beaten out of us though, man? Like the fact that like even some of our team, as they've come on over the years, we've heard things like, well, can your body really heal an infection, like a viral infection, without an antibiotic? First of all, that doesn't make any sense. But we're so conditioned to think that we're just, forgive my language, but we're stupid, and medical doctors are smart, and health is really, really complex, and we'll never really understand it because we didn't go to 4 years of medical school. But guys, what we're talking about is your body is self-healing, self-regulating. Full stop. That's what it is. That's how God designed it. It's always healing. It's always regulating. To what degree is the problem? And when we're exposed to extraneous and exuberant amounts of stress in our society, it first has to be processed through our central nervous system, and over time, our ability to heal, regulate, and adapt goes down. And what do? We run to medication, or we run, if you're like, I don't want to do medication, we run to peptides. And before you know it, you're injecting 14 needles into your stomach every morning just to get level, but you're not actually accomplishing anything, because guess what? If you take the peptides away, guess what it all does? It all comes back.
If you were going to ask, what mindset could I have in 2026 to make my system work better? There's two things I think that I think both of us would agree that you need to understand.
Yep.
And that's number one. If the stress continues to persist and does not change from the outside, the body will continuously adapt in the fashion it's already adapting to, whatever that be, whether it's allergies or asthma, whatever symptom you have. It is because the stress is consistently sustained and doesn't go away.
Yep.
And obviously that stress maybe sometimes is if it's underlying, maybe it's more so at times in different seasons. So if the stress if the stress consistently is sustained, the body will continue to adapt the same way. Number two, if the pattern of the neurology isn't changed, the body will continue to adapt the same way. So if the stress is sustained and the neurology isn't changed, the body will always continuously adapt the same way, but it will do so in a compounding effect, cumulatively over time. This is why people typically tend disease on aging, right? I'm getting older. Age is a component to all this, but it is not the only component. Otherwise, we wouldn't see 90-year-olds that are healthier than 40-year-olds, right? We see people who in their 20s and 30s sick because the amount of stress combined with the pattern they developed in adaptation to that stress has accumulated in an advanced rate to their bodies intelligently giving them a signal as a result of it.
Yeah. And guys, disease rates are only going up.
Yeah.
Medicine, like the count of how many drugs people take, are only going up. We're not winning. We are, in fact, losing. Right. And if we don't do something different, then we're going to get the same results as we always do. So in the new year, we have to, as your doctors, we are urging you to stop looking at the next thing on Instagram and start looking at foundational principles. Like, it doesn't cost you anything to get up in the morning and center your mind and pray.
No.
It's a simple principle of getting your mind right so you're not subject to the day. There is no cost that you can put on regulation of your autonomic nervous system, because otherwise you're taking all these things. If you have a nervous system that is subject to stress and patterns for so many years, like Dr. Mike's talking about, and you're trying to add in all the gizmos and gadgets, you're never going to find it.
No.
It's just not going to happen. So in this new year, realize chiropractic is not a commodity. It's not a trend. And it's not just another item on the health buffet. It's the foundation that the entire rest of this stack, or whatever you're doing, rests on. So we have to regulate our nervous system first, and everything else will become more effective.
And I had a family of 5, and they have actually 5 kids, so a family of 7 that drives over an hour and a half to get here. And they come once a week. And the mother told me today that one of her friends said, "Where are you going?" She said, "We're going to the chiropractor." She's like, "You take all of your kids to the chiropractor?" She's like, "We take all our kids to the chiropractor. We go once a week and we drive over an hour and a half one way." Mm-hmm. And the lady said to her, "You're insane." And I said, "You know what's pretty crazy is that it all comes down to your paradigm of what insanity." First of all, the definition of insanity, as we know, is not doing the same thing over and over. It's thinking the same way over and over again. So if you want a different 2026, you have to think differently in order to do differently. You can't make this the same as last year. So it depends on, if you're a practice member, our advice to you would be, how do you need to think differently this year?
Yep.
Right? About what you need to be doing differently this year, because you cannot have the same year that you had last year.
No.
And that is not a life worth living. You have to think, all right, where am I weak or where am I unstable? And some of you, it's, I hate to be the hard hitter here, but some of you, you make way too many excuses of why you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And
because the pain hasn't become big enough of why you can.
100%. And most of you act as if you're not hurting in the moment, there is no value there. And remember that everything you think, how you move, how you eat, how you care for your system will compound over time. And it will build. It's the frog in boiling water analogy. You know, if you put a frog in lukewarm water, that frog isn't jumping out. But if I slowly raise the temperature, he or she won't even know that they're in boiling water. You throw a frog in boiling water, jumps out immediately. We are living a life in tepid, lukewarm water and slowly raising the dial until we boil to death. And here's the thing. If you can grasp these concepts now and realize you don't need shiny bells, you don't need new objects. We always typically want, especially with this social media platforms that we're dealing with now, they're designed to consistently sell you all the time.
Yep.
So you don't need the next bell and whistle. You need to start with how you need to think about some of the habits that you guys have either fallen into, good or bad, and start moving them slowly into a better place. And just know this, that healing, just like disease, takes time. So you don't need to do it all at one time. Start with one thing and start making that a habit until it becomes and nails a habit, and then build on the next one. And that's how you build over time. 5 years from now, you're going to be a way different individual versus you doing the same thing over and over again.
Yep. So practical steps as we're wrapping up. I know it's been a longer episode, but practical steps, if you're a practice member, and you're maybe not seeing the results that you want yet, then it's time to have a chat with us, your care providing team, and to say, hey, I'm not healing quite the way I want to. And we're not going to guess with this. We're going to measure. If it's been a minute since we measured, we're going to take some new data. We're going to see how your body's responding to stress in real time. And we're going to make what the biggest recommendation that we could possibly make, which comes down to your frequency and how often you're caring for your nervous system. That's number one. Number two, if you're a practice member and you have not checked your kids or your spouse or your immediate family, it's time to get them checked, because we cannot tell you how many times that we have found things like a scoliotic curve, or, it pops up like not a natural conversation in the beginning, but then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, well, they do have a learning disability. And it's like we're seeing these things in kids, and you're never going to know what's in their body until they become a symptomatic adult or until you look. So again, number 2 is get your rest of your family checked. Like, take a look and see how their nervous system is responding, because at some point they're going to become symptomatic. And then the question becomes, how are you going to deal with it, and which paradigm are you going to use? And are you going to give them the Ritalin, or are you going to look at why their body is producing more of that spastic type of affective behavior? So get your system right, get your frequency right, and get your family checked.
And get your habits right. And this is, the care that we provide here, it's habitual. And it should be utilized lifelong, because the system, at my age, I'm 53, I've developed a lot of habits neurologically in adaptation to stress. I know priority-wise, number 1, that's something I have to continue, maintain, and take care of throughout my lifespan. And that's a choice. That's a choice. You're either choosing one path or the other, folks. And if you think this is too expensive, you have not seen someone get sick yet.
Yep.
Because that is way more expensive than the investment you make in your health.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for us. We're out. Let's have a great year.
Appreciate it.